Well, it's been nearly 1 month since Israel's fifth elections in just under 4 years, but a government still not formed. Overnight, Benjamin Netanyahu and religious Zionism leader Bezalel Smotrich meeting once again, and it's now estimated that they will soon announce an agreement between the two of them. Reports also overnight saying that Netanyahu is considering asking President Isaac Herzog for an extension of the mandate by another 2 weeks. But just yesterday, half of the mandates given to Netanyahu to form a government have passed. And so far, agreements have been signed with Otzma Yehudit and the Noam parties, while negotiations continue with Shas, United Torah, Judaism, and religious Zionism. Let's bring in I-24 News political affairs correspondent Batya Leventhal joining me live in studio this morning. Batya, give us the latest.
It's interesting and unexpected, to say the very least. You know, we were there at the Likud headquarters, the day that Netanyahu was told that he was actually given enough votes to be able to form a government, and his main speech was basically about the fact that he is going to do this as soon as possible and eject Yair Lapid and his government from the seat. And yet now we hear that he's asking for an extension. So this really is quite unexpected, given the fact that Netanyahu was set on wanting to make sure that he could form a stable right-wing government, as they keep calling it, as soon as possible. And yet now we know that he is asking for an extension. So just to put that into perspective, lawmakers are normally given around 42 days in total in order to form a government. They've got 4 weeks from when they are given the mandate by Isaac Herzog or whoever is sitting in the presidential chair at that time, and then they can ask for a one-time 2-week extension. So the fact that he is now going to be asking for this extension, the question is, well, what if he still hasn't formed a government by the end of the 2 weeks? And it's an interesting question at that, because it means that Isaac Herzog will then need to task who he seems fit as being able to actually form a government. So the clock now is really ticking for Benjamin Netanyahu, although this does come as a little bit of an upbeat and pressure, given the fact that he wanted to form a government so quickly. He now is going to have only 2 weeks once he puts in this request to make sure that that is actually met and that he does form a government. Otherwise, it's likely he's not going to be able to have that chance going forward.
Talk to us about what the main holdups are. We do know that yesterday, religious Zionism is urging Benjamin Netanyahu to assign a temporary Knesset speaker. Is that one of the holdups? And talk to us a little bit about that process.
Absolutely. In terms of replacing the Speaker of the Knesset, you're talking about a person who has the ability to place the pace of the law and the legislation in the hands of the current coalition or in the hands of a government that should be coming in, meaning that at the moment, Miki Levy, who is part of Yesh Atid and part of the opposition on the outgoing government, is able to push that pace of legislation, meaning that if there's a law that they want, the new coming government wants to put into place, he can slow that down. He can delay that. It's all about the pace. And so the new government wants to be able to replace a Knesset speaker as soon as possible. And the truth is that we're seeing a lot of political infighting because of this. So as you mentioned, Bezalel Smotrich seems to be, coming under quite a lot of fire for holding up this process. He seems to be the one that is using this as a sort of key to Netanyahu, as a bargaining chip, saying that he needs his demands met before being able to fully announce that he is willing to put in a new speaker. It seems now that they likely will replace them with a temporary speaker, because it helps this government set their course and be able to start implementing their laws and their legislation even before a government is properly formed.
And Batya, very quickly, Benjamin Netanyahu will ask for this extension to form a government, but it's not guaranteed that the president will give it to him. Talk to us about, very quickly, instances where this extension hasn't been granted.
Right. Well, it's likely that this is actually just a formality. With a government that has a presidential that is seen as more of a master of ceremonies or more of a ceremonial role, there is a process, a due process, a formality to follow through with. It's likely also, we had discussions just 4 weeks ago of, is he actually going to give the mandate to Benjamin Netanyahu, even though there might be, a possibility of him not forming. The reality is that he has to, in a sense, give it to him. It's more of a ceremonial task more than anything else. And so it's likely that this extension will go through, that he will appease Netanyahu and give him the extension. But it hasn't been likely in many cases that the president stands in the way of a new government being formed, particularly because it's more of a formation and a procedural thing than it is actually him having power to be able to do that.
I-24 News international and political affairs correspondent Batya Leventhal live in studio with us this morning. Thank you.